Makes sense, doesn't it? Let's talk to Andrew Montford, Deputy Director of Net Zero Watch, because, of course, we've been talking a lot about net zero because Keir Starmer's coming back from Baku this morning. He's going to be in Prime Minister's questions at midday today. He's already said that he's going to do something which is completely and utterly unachievable, which is to reduce the carbon emissions of this country by 81% in the next 10 years. Andrew, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
I mean, the sort of the climate zealot that is Ed Miliband, you can sort of understand him being a bit carried away with his own self-importance and his lies about the 300 quid that we're all going to save, which, of course, we're not going to save. But Keir Starmer, I mean, he's the Prime Minister. You know, he goes all the way to Baku. There isn't really anybody there commensurate to him who's a world leader. And what was the point of it all?
Yeah, I mean, this was pure virtue signalling, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, he was just trying to get himself in the headlines by saying something so ridiculous that people might sort of sit up and take notice of it. I mean, 80% of all emissions, not just emissions on the electricity grid, all emissions. So, you know, the transport system and domestic heat as well. Yeah, not a chance. I mean, he's just virtue signalling. So we can safely ignore that. I must say, I thought your interview with Claire Coutinho was very interesting. I think the fact that she is saying that, you know, she is essentially refusing to say, yes, we fully support net zero was really quite important. Right. I think it did rather give the impression, didn't it, that the Conservative Party is still pretty divided on this issue, that you know, she's having to worry about what the Tory wets might do or say if she actually came out and said the truth, which is that net zero is madness and unaffordable and will take the economy down.
Well, that would be a good thing to do at this point in time, because you would have an ally in the United States in Donald Trump, who is not by any means, you know, a climate denier as such. He just says that there's no point in being ridiculous and heading for this net zero, let's all wreck the economy scenario, when there's no need to do it. Because, let's face it, I mean, I had this argument with somebody out in Baku earlier in the week. You know, we've reduced our emissions by between 42 and 50% over the last 10 to 20 years, and it hasn't made any difference at all to the climate, and it hasn't made any difference at all to the carbon emissions of the world. In fact, in every other place, it's going up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the Britain is going to look quite ridiculous if our economy goes on shrinking in years to come. The Americans have been growing really quite quickly because despite Mr. Biden's best attempts, the American economy is much stronger than ours and has kept growing. And I think we can probably expect that Mr. Trump will accelerate that growth. So, you know, they are all, you know, what isn't it? Mississippi now is the poorest state in the US, is now wealthier than anywhere in the UK. I mean, it's just this is madness how far we're dropping behind. And as you say, it's making no difference to the climate at all.
No, exactly right. And I mean, as far as the you know, the commitment is concerned itself, I mean, the trouble is there are kind of incentives, aren't there, business incentives to sign up to some of this stuff, because a lot of the companies that are now signing up to the government's sort of green agenda are getting subsidy. And so, of course, they're going to do it. They're not doing it because they think it's a good idea. They're doing it to get free money from us.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a big element of that. I think you know, the money does talk. I think a lot of business leaders are actually, you know, they are fully signed up to the climate cult, and they believe in this stuff, and they're willing to destroy shareholder value if you know, if that's what it takes to advance their sort of religious faith. So, you know, there's all sorts of factors going on here. This is the problem in Parliament too. You know, lots of people just believe it, and they don't think about the practicalities of what it's going to do to the economy, what it's going to do to the man in the street, you know, what it's going to do to jobs. They just don't think about it.
No, they really don't. It's ridiculous. Andrew, we've got to run because we're running really short of time today. Sorry. Andrew Montford, Deputy Director of Net Zero Watch.